Okay, so we'll start this time with George, and we'll go back down the list. So looking at my list here, should the municipality be allocating more money for maintenance and development of trails? George.
I don't know.
Okay, thank you, George. And Peter.
Well, it's always tough, having just supported increased arts funding, I think. It's difficult. I think the best way to get trails is when the new developments happen, and we've got to work with developers. We've got to know what we want. And I think we have to work with the Greenways Committee. We have to have a plan that says, what do we want, what do we need, how are we going to link up the pieces we have got so as to create the network of trails across the island that we need. Having said that, once we know what we want, we can work with developers as things come up. There are grants we can apply for, and as various upgrades, when roads get resurfaced and so on, there are opportunities to improve trails or pathways on the side of the road, these sorts of things. But no, I don't see an endless pot of money. I wish I could, because I'd certainly like to see better trails across the island. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Okay, the next question then, for Maureen, is, are you in agreement with rezoning and servicing of community lands, surplus lands? If not, how do you propose to retire the $2 million plus debt now owed and continuing accruing interest?
I want to argue with Tim on the value of town halls. And in response to this question, yes.
Okay, Allison?
I'll just throw in a little background on trails.
You can take your minute however you like.
We do have a parcel tax that goes to fund the development of parks and trails, and what we don't spend in a current year goes into a reserve fund to fund in further years. And yes, we need to deal with some of the community lands. We bought them with the intent of selling some of them for other uses, residential, et cetera, to pay down the debt, the money we borrowed to buy them.
Thank you. Melanie, what environmental changes, protections, or improvements would you champion? What, if any, new regulations would you propose?
I would like to see the second part of the bylaw for public docks put through. I think for me that would be something I'd like to champion through. Access to public beaches, I think, is vital for our community. That's why a lot of us moved here, and that is what I'd probably concentrate on. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael?
I would actually like to consider some of the environmentally sensitive areas that we have, and there may be a need for bylaws for that, and combined with a very careful rezoning. My question here, or at least my response to this, is maybe before we introduce any more new bylaws or champion any new bylaws, maybe we could just take careful stock of what we've got. There is a tendency to add bylaw on top of bylaw on top of bylaw without doing any housekeeping to make sure that the bylaws we've actually got don't argue against one another. So maybe just a careful piece of housekeeping before we go any further and introduce any new campaigns or issues we want to champion. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. The next question for Yvette. What changes do you see in the Bowen Island municipal staffing?
Well, as I understand it, we have a really high ratio of Bowen Island participants in the staffing group, which I think makes a lot of sense. That we have people who have a vested interest in Bowen Island that are part of the staff. I think that that lends to a more a richer decision making and a more connected community through the staff as well. I don't hear a lot of complaints about staff. They seem to be well run, and those would be the things that I would think. I don't see any reason to change them.
Thank you. This time, we'll keep the mayoral candidates in line. So, Murray, you can answer the same question, please.
No, I agree with that. I think that our staffing is great. I mean, I really do. I interact with a lot of the staff, and they're a wonderful group of people. I think at that level, our community is really very well run. I have no proposals on how I would change it. There, I have no new ideas.
Okay, and then to Tim, we currently have a parcel tax for garbage and parks. Do you support additional parcel tax system for future capital projects?
Well, this is really a philosophical question. Let me take, for example, the Cove Bay water system. This is a $7.5 million project. Do only the Cove Bay water users pay for this? Or do we put a small parcel tax on everybody because everybody uses the school or the restaurants or the businesses in the cove? So it really becomes a philosophical discussion whether or not you apply parcel taxes. I think parcel taxes typically have to be applied equitably so that they're being applied to across the board when people are using the services across the board. And I'd just like to add that I've worked with this staff for 3 years, and I get emails answered at 9 o'clock at night. I get emails answered on the weekends. We have an amazing, committed, competent staff.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tim. Stacy?
In certain conditions, I certainly support parcel taxes as needed. I think the idea of the Cove Bay water filtration system, for example, you know, if we can get that done for $7.5 million, we'll be lucky. I think that there are elements like that filtration system that benefit the community as a whole, and if one of the funding models is a parcel tax, along with grants, along with users paying, then I think we need to use it as a tool when and where we can. I think we have to be careful with it. I think that we have to ensure that all the way along that we've considered equity as an important part of the formula. When we make infrastructure choices in isolation, we often forget about the equity where you have a single system, Cove Bay, for example, where one part of the system, people paid $9,000 to sign up to the system, and another part of the system, people didn't. You know, and that's not done on purpose. It's just because the left hand didn't really know what the right hand is doing. So yes, I support parcel taxes, but I want to maintain equity with our infrastructure choices so people are all paying their fair share, and some people aren't overpaying while other people underpay. So,
thank you, Stacy. Marcus, your question is, a request for expressions of interest for on-island composting was published in the Undercurrent. What is your view on the municipality financially supporting a composting facility?
Composting is an awesome idea. I like the idea that we're taking our yard waste, throwing it in a pile, letting it compost, and we can bring it back to the community. The fact that we have stuff on our lots or we're shipping stuff off the island is, you know, disgusting or it's not cost effective. I like the idea of having a facility for composting. I think it's a great idea. Thank you.
Thank you. And Sue Ellen.
Well, I like the idea too. I have a compost pile that we use, but occasionally we put things into that compost, and I just feel it's really weird to pay a lot of money to our garbage contractors who do a great job, but to get it shipped off to wherever it goes. Cache Creek now, I think. Seems a bit, well, maybe not there. Anyway, my point is, yeah, I think it's good. If it lowers our costs and if it makes sense environmentally and ecologically, which I think it probably does, I approve of the idea of cycles. That's how ecological processes work. And I also like the ideas of low carbon solutions where we don't pay all kinds of money to truck things to different parts of our province, so it makes sense to me. And in our driveway at the moment, we have part of a demolished building because we're going to recycle that into firewood. It's not exactly composting, but it's a way of dealing with waste on island that we were happy to try that. We've done it before. And I had one more thought, but it's gone. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sue Ellen. Okay, Michael, tourism, health, and education retreats, the arts, service industry, and the trades are all pillars of our local economy. Which of these areas deserve additional focus, and are there others that should be pursued?
I think that tourism is very important to our island, but we have to look at it in the context of how much time out of the year. So having facilities that encourage people to come to Bowen and enjoy our island in the summer makes sense to me, but it makes sense to have facilities that are temporary in the sense that we're not paying for them all year round because we're only getting a benefit during the summer. I think the education component is an excellent idea to bring institutions here to use our island as a safe place to teach and to share knowledge. But I think that going back to the idea of having our own high-speed broadband would really help that, because no one's going to come and set up an education facility here with our speed of internet at the current time.
Thank you. And Gary?
Well, I think all these endeavors should be encouraged. We have to broaden our tax base. There's no question about that. We're almost at the end of our spending limit here, and if we want other things on Bowen, or if we just want to continue the lifestyle that we enjoy now, we have to increase our tax base. We should encourage anything that's environmentally benign should be on the island. The retreats are a great idea. The construction industry supports a huge part of the population and enables people to work and live on Bowen, which is part of our independence, which creates a lack of dependence on BC ferries and all these things. We just have to try to be a little bit more independent, and I think, yes, and no question, encourage all these endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.